It's now the year 2016 in RID15's Season 2, marking the appearance of this guy's evolution that may be mistaken for an innocent cockroach, but is actually a Decepticon who was arrested for pillaging communities on Cybertron, just for the fun of it. Oh, of course, that ship crashed on Earth, he escaped and slaved some minicon guards and joined a group of Decepticon fugitives because they get to set up a villain and all. And crap, I wrote this intro way too long. You know what, cut to the splashes. Hey, this is Blue4 Blossom House Review, the nostalgia I can promise you, and man does this guy have a dynamic design. The stark angular shapes that flow with the curves on the figure, paired with the lightweight sleekness on his limbs, do a great job in expressing this guy's speed and lankiness, which is nicely balanced out by his shoulder claws that give more of a weighted and armored presence. And it's crazy to think that from being a chunky green and purple Titan-sized bot, to later rejecting Robot and going to an actual Scorpion, to eventually returning to Robot and going back to an actual robotic Scorpion, that we ended up with the story of the dinosaurs all over again, with small chickens being distant relatives of their man on the toilet eating former selves. And he stands up pretty good considering his evolved hind chicken legs. Can't say the same about this year-old chopped in two Decepticon fool. Damn, you're dead. As far as backpack goes, he cleans up real nice all around too. Except those friggin' kibble legs. Which I don't mind, even if they do hinder articulation. But he's just one of those figures that when you pick him up, you just have the urge to play with him. Which is what I feel the most with the Grimace brothers, Mr. Mini Mechagodzilla and Bunny Ear Sensei over here. It's figures like these that all have that one thing in common, that they nail both the fun and visual eye candy aspect with no compromises between design, engineering, and accuracy. Of course helped by the fact that it's coated with a sparkly finish on his brown and orange plastic, which always leaves an impression in my eyes when it comes to boosting eye-catching points for the figure. Shiny. And to sprinkle a bit of outside pop culture, his head reminds me of a Star Wars Inquisitor helmet sat right on top of his head, where his face echoes a sinister, plotting personality, as if he's about to get ready to commit war crimes again. And the usual suspects with articulation goes, he's got a ball-jointed head with a bit of up and down, and has a slight hinge due to transformation, ball-jointed shoulders that go out and in, and go up this far, which is helped by the Godsend Polgen flaps for some extra movement, and go this far back, swivel upper bicep, hinge elbows that go at 45, and can bend back because some people can actually do that, ball-jointed hips that go out and in, and can knee himself in the chest and go this far back, upper thigh cut, hinge cockroach legs with their height and scaling out the door, hinge foot due to transformation, and for the icing on the cake for movement, a ball jointed stinger, and a hinge here and here for some dynamic stinger poses, which can sting himself in the nuts. Acting as the friend to his endeavors, Scorponok has this scimitar, which we'll call the Shmee because I'm feeling generous on Star Wars references today. Plugging a Shmee to stinger is also an option if you're feeling unconventional, and it helps with multitasking too. Dead. And here's my favorite loadout. 5mm port compatible. And although he does have a hole in the ball joint, the hole is slightly big for a flight stand port. Checkmate. And size is your average deluxe scale. And just for those who don't know, Warrior class is basically a budget deluxe class. And now for comparisons, here's repainted and retooled Warrior class Paralon, Kingdom Scorponok, 07 Scorponok, War for Cybertron Siege Megatron, and because I don't have any RID15 Transformers, because mom said no, here's some other Chug Autobot cast I have from that show. Close enough. And a banana for scale. And before we go to transformation, I want to take a quick look at the fact that he looks like he channels his Enlightened Inner Prime design rather than RID, thanks to the fact that color-wise, he isn't accurate to his on-screen appearance, having the iconic silver no-nose prime face, got your nose, which is why we have Takara repaints if you want to go for the RID15 look. But for this guy, if you're a Prime fan, this would be an absolute win for the Prime shelf, if it wasn't for the Decepticon Football Club logo, which if you're wondering was a feature where you would scan the insignia on an app, boop, and it would unlock characters temporarily in the RID15 mobile game to remind us how much we need to fill that endless void in our soul for figures we don't have. And to that I say, take my money Hasbro! And you can't spell warrior class without budget, which means smooth sailing for this transformation, if you're older than 6. And as we can see, he doesn't transform into a cockroach, because that would be disgustingly brilliant. And I'm loving how this mode doesn't feel too compromised by robot mode. Even though you do have the elbows sticking out, the fact that the claws slide and dangle from the shoulders to cover off the lower forearms was so satisfying that honestly, it cancels out how much it stands out because of how satisfying it was to transform. And the rest is basically getting him to somersault into himself, where if you look underneath, I would say they did a pretty good job for kibble management. He also inherits most of the articulation from robot mode, with the hinged jaw, retains the ball jointed shoulders from robot mode, keeping his bicep cut, but very little movement in those claws, which can't open unfortunately. Cockroach legs can hinge up and down, and Stinger has the same articulation for some extreme scorpion stinging reach, which I'm glad articulates well, unlike this guy, who's a little stiff. Hologaps are usually a big no-no, though I feel it actually helps break up the flow of his stinger and adds way more depth. So I'll let this slide this time, Hasbro. For weapon storage, Shmi can be plugged into his stinger like we saw before, which isn't accurate to the show I believe, and I gotta be honest, I do prefer the stock look, so I guess a Shmi will go into the accessory prison when I have him in Scorpion mode. And time to run through some quick alt mode comparisons, with his on-screen appearance, RID15 Parallon, Kingdom Scorponok, 07 Scorponok, other Chug RID characters I have, and to top it all off, El Banana. Now being the owner of my first RID mainline transformer, I gotta say, Scorponok is a really fun figure, and it sure is nice to own an iteration of Scorponok that looks like a cockroach if anything. Wait, does that make him Cockronok? And it makes you really wonder if we'll ever get back to that time when we had huge TV show toy lines that filled the shelves with fresh new molds, despite not all being the best. Though with the new Cyberworld animated series coming out sometime in the next year or so, I'm hoping we get a chance at some really unique lineups which I could settle for even if not many. But of course, as the saying goes, time will tell.
Exterminate.
Hope you guys like this entry into the Blast from the Past series. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, then go watch Emgo or Jobby or someone, they're way cooler.